What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Joey, JcM, and today we're talking about PlayStation 6. Rumors are starting to rev up, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe it's that time already, but they're starting to be talked about, and some things are going around. So basically, they're saying that the PS6 is kind of come in two forms, basically, like kind of a main console and like a handheld, kind of like basically a Switch kind of thing. So I wanted to talk about what I think what the PS6 is going to be and like the whole PS6 like situation. Now, I think that what comes to my mind is PS6 is probably going to be, I'm thinking the handheld may be like a PS5 in handheld form, rebranded to be called a PS6 or part of the PS6 family. Kind of like a situation with like Xbox, how they had like the Series X and Series S. I'm thinking the handheld version of the PS6 will kind of be like their Series S. You know what I mean? And there's been like talks about them wanting to like slow down when it comes to like graphics wise and stuff, because it works for Nintendo. And basically, you know, graphics have gotten to the point where like they're so good, and also like it's worth it to slow down because of how expensive things are. So maybe this will be a good excuse for them to be like, listen, we're going to slow down with graphics, and basically our handheld is basically going to be a PS5 handheld version. Maybe they won't say that, but basically, you know, it'll be the less powerful quote unquote version of the PS6, and maybe like the home console will be, you know, if you want more power, if you want like a PC kind of thing, buy the home console. And maybe essentially the PS6 will really just be a PS5 in handheld form, and maybe the home console version of PS6 will basically be like a PS5 Pro, really, or kind of just like a pro version of whatever they're doing with PS6. Or maybe what they could do is basically make the PS5 Pro the handheld, and then just have like a little bit of a step above, you know, a PS5 Pro will be like the home console version. Because they don't want to go too far apart with the handheld and the home console version, you know, basically for price reasons and stuff. So maybe the PS5 Pro technology handheld-wise, they'll be able to sell for kind of like, you know, the same price or a cheaper price. And then if you want to go like $50 more, you get the Pro, which is the PS6 home console. It'll be like a good excuse not to jump like too far ahead, so they could basically, by not jumping too far ahead, they can aim to like make more of like a profit on what they're selling. Because I can't see them jumping too far ahead, because if they go so far ahead and try to turn that like super new technology into a handheld, that's going to be like really expensive. So with all the talk about wanting to slow down with graphics, and I mean, it pretty much is like confirmed that the PS6 is, you know, going to have like a handheld version, or is going to be a handheld. It seems like it's going to be both. I mean, those rumors are so heavy at this point. So you combine those things together, I really think that the PS6 handheld is just going to be a PS5 Pro rebranded into the PS6 family, and then the PS6 home console, like I said, will basically be like a Pro, like all these like, you know, like a half step up, and so they don't have to make it like super new technology to where, you know, they'll make less of a profit. They see how much money Nintendo makes, and I guess with, you know, basically they're not battling for power anymore when it comes to Xbox. You know, it's kind of the perfect time to, like, I guess, slow down and, you know, kind of aim more for what Nintendo does, I guess. And that kind of leads into what I want to talk about as far as Nintendo when it comes to this, because I think this is kind of good news for Switch 2, because if the PS6 handheld is going to be more of a PS5 or a PS5 Pro, that's good news for Nintendo, because we see, and one of the best examples right now is like WWE 2K25. If you look at comparison videos for 2K25 on Switch 2 and PS5, I think even PS5 Pro, it's almost like you can't even almost notice the difference. So basically, Switch 2 has that like DSSL technology, whatever it's called, where, basically I guess they could take like a PS5 game and, run it at like a lower resolution, but then just upscale like the screen to like 4K and whatever it is. It basically makes it look like the same thing. So yeah, WWE 2K25 is like a crazy example of like the Switch 2 basically being on par with like PS5. So that's crazy. So if Sony's going to slow down with graphics and this PS6 handheld is basically going to be a PS5 in handheld form, that's actually really good news for Switch 2, because if Switch 2 could basically keep up with PS5 kind of right now, we kind of don't have to worry about that scenario where, Switch 2 will be good for now, but in a couple of years when like PS6 comes out, maybe the third-party support will be a little bit harder to do and, possibly slow down a little bit. But now if this PS5 or PS6 handheld is basically going to be a PS5, that's a whole nother generation. Switch 2 could basically kind of keep up with, what's coming out next. So this is kind of like really good news for Switch 2, and I guess really good news in general, because, graphics are, crazy at this point, and, I guess it's good for them to, they want to make their profit, whatever, and it's good for people also, because that'll mean, the price of maybe the next gen systems won't be, as terrible as we, may have thought it was going to be. And I guess there's like some scenarios, going on where like, some prices have to be raised in general, like Switch 2 accessory prices kind of got raised a little bit and stuff like that. So maybe it's just all around Sony wants to slow down on the graphics race. They don't need to go crazy in the graphics race anymore, since Xbox kind of like, slowed down in their way and stuff like that. So it kind of just like is an all-in-all win for everyone, like Nintendo even, us people that are, maybe going to buy PS6, for them, they get to make their profit. So this is pretty interesting. So I think, putting all those puzzle pieces together, I think that's what comes to my mind, what's going to happen with the PS6. So let me know what you guys think is going to be the scenario with PS6, and what do you think about all these things you heard today? Do you think that's the way it should be anyway? Because everyone would kind of benefit from that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. And yeah, PS6. Wow, I can't believe it's already time to start talking about, the beginning of the rumors of that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joey JcM, and I will see you guys later. Wow.